Hello everyone, it's really great to be back. Hope you're having a good week. So, I wanted to talk about something, yeah? I have a confession to make. But before I do that, I wanted to say something that a lot of times I get asked if my channel is about myself. If I talk about myself, I don't. It has absolutely nothing to do with me. Most of the time, the topics are based on something I've discussed during the week or something I've seen that I think is worth talking about. So if I have to make reference to myself, I would say it like I'm doing now. So anyway, so back to my confession. So what had happened was I have this friends, right? They're a couple. So back in the days, every time I visited them, like they had racks and racks of this really, really expensive champagne, right? So we'll pop a bottle and all sit down and talk and everything. And when I'm leaving, they would give me like a bottle of two. Do you understand? It was for collection's sake, right? Because so it was for collection's sake. So anyway, I ran into them recently and I ended up visiting them. It was a quick visit, so there wasn't time for the tete-a-tete. Anyway, now as I was leaving, they gave me the usual bottle of champagne. Now, based on my faith, I don't need it. I tend not to drink, right? But I accepted it, and which I shouldn't have. So I should have actually said to them, okay, I don't tend to drink. I don't need it. But I accepted it, and I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I couldn't just be upfront and honest with them, as opposed to I actually accepted it with a smile. So I don't know why I did that. I think maybe partly because I didn't want to rub it in their faces, and which is wrong. And maybe I felt like they would look at me funny. Maybe I felt like they would secretly mock me or judge me or something, maybe that was how I felt. I don't know why I wasn't able to actually be honest with them, as opposed to instead I just accepted it. So what I'm trying to say is, a lot of us, most of the time, a lot of people don't stand for what they believe in out of fear of what will people say, out of fear of being mocked or being judged, out of fear of prejudice, and when you do that, what you're doing essentially is giving up your right? You're giving up your power to another, especially when it's based on the things of God. You're giving up your inheritance. In other words, why I said that is because if you're not somebody's child, you're not entitled to what comes with them, isn't it? So if you're not able to openly, accept who you are, openly stand on your rights as a child of God, you're giving your power away to another. Let me tell you a quick story, right? It's the story of Elisha in the Bible. Now, please, if you're not familiar with this story, please refer to Google, right? So, Elisha had this master, Elijah, right? Now, Elijah didn't die. He was taken, when it was his time to go, he was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. It was recorded as such. So before Elijah left, Elijah said to his successor, Elisha, that tell me what you want me to do for you. And Elisha said, well, I want double portion of your spirit. Now, to have double portion of his spirit was a bit of a difficult thing, because if you recall, Elijah was actually a very, very, very powerful prophet. He was the one that called down fire from heaven and essentially having leverage over the prophets of Baal. So amongst the Israelites, he was really feared because people knew that he was truly a man of God. He was very powerful. So even Elijah told Elisha that if you want double portion of my spirit, what you're asking for is a very difficult thing. But I mean, if you see me go up into heaven, if you're able to witness that, then you have what it is you're asking for. So Elisha saw him go up. So he was given double portion of Elijah's spirit. But the thing is, only he knew that he had taken over Elijah's power, right? Okay, so hold that thought. Now, Elisha, on his way back from that incident, it was recorded that he went past Bethel. Bethel is a city, right? And children came out 42 of them to be precise. And children came out and started to mock him. And they're like, oh, bald head man, go up, you bald head man, go up, you bald head man. And what happened was he turned around and he cursed them in the name of the Lord, and 2 bears came out and devoured them. Now, when a lot of people hear about this story, people are like, oh my God, this is barbaric. This part of the Bible is so barbaric. This, that. I actually once heard somebody refer to that part of the Bible as evil. So somebody said the evil God of the Bible made bears devour little children. How would bears devour little children and everything? Now, here's the thing. You see the Bible, right? It's just a book, depending on what you use it for. Now, some people use it for spiritual practices, which is you pray with the Bible, you meditate on the words, you ask the Holy Spirit for interpretation. And some people use it as aesthetics for their side table. So until they actually have a nightmare before they remember that they have a Bible, then they pick it up and like, Jesus. Anyway, so well, I know that because I used to be one of them. Anyway, so some people use the book. People use the book for different purposes. Now, most of the stories written in the Bible, like I said, it depends on what you use it for. If you're looking at it from a spiritual aspect, so most of the stories, you can't take them in literal form, right? You have to dig deeper. You have to ask the Holy Spirit for interpretation. You can't take them in literal form. Now, children, most of the time, when they refer to children, right? I don't know. I've talked about this in one of my topics. I don't remember. So when children are being referred to, sometimes they are not referring to a literal child, a little child. That's not what it is. Now, if you're somebody of a pure heart, right? Because children have pure hearts, right? Children don't have any negativity towards anybody. They're not hating on anyone. Their hearts are pure. So when an adult has a pure heart, they're usually referred to as children, right? Now, or somebody that has just given their lives to Christ. They are children in the Spirit. Now, as they meditate on the Word, as they walk with the Holy Spirit, they start to grow in the Spirit. So they as well are referred to as children. Now, if you look at the Hebrew version of the Bible, those children, those 42 children that came out to mock Elisha, were referred to as Chata, Naha, and Yelid. Now, Chata means something small, something little, of low in status, or low in importance. Now, let me give you a good example. Jacob's youngest son, right, Benjamin, was referred to as Chata. Now, Jacob's youngest son, Benjamin, wasn't a child. It was at the time he was getting married that he was referred to as such. So he wasn't a child. He was probably just growing in spirit. Does that make sense? Also, Saul, the first king of Israel, because he was low in status before he was called by God to become king, he was also referred to in the Hebrew version as Kata. So those are not children. One was actually just growing in spirit. The other one was low in status. So they were referred to as such. Now, Naha means a boy or girl, ranging from infant to young adult, right? Now, Solomon referred to himself as Chata Naha when he was asking for wisdom after he became king. So he said to God, well, I am but a child before you, so please grant me wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to be able to govern your people, right? So he refers to himself as Chata Naha. He wasn't a child at the time. Does that make any sense? Now, these 42 children in the Hebrew version were referred to as Chata Naha, which means they might not have been children. They probably were young adults or very, very immature grown men. Does that make any sense? So if you look at the story from a spiritual sense, it was really a fight between light and darkness. Let me explain. Now, Bethel, the city Bethel, Elisha was walking through Bethel when the 42 children came out to mock him. Now, Bethel happens to be a town where there were predominant idol worshippers, right? They were Israelite, but they were idol worshippers. Now, if you recall, Jeroboam when he became king, he wanted to distract the children of Israel. He didn't want them to go to Jerusalem. So he put up a golden calf, an idol, in Bethel and in Dan for the children of Israel to worship. Now, with the children of Israel, it was quite easy to turn them away from the Most High God to worship idols, right? All you had to do is give them something shiny and they would worship it. Much like a lot of people today, once they see something shiny, they would give up their morality anyway. So Bethel became a very prominent, very successful city because it now became like a worship tourist center. So a lot of people came from all over the world to actually worship in either Bethel or Dan. Elisha's job was to turn these people back to the Most High God. To be able to do that, they needed to believe he was powerful. He was a true prophet, so he needed credibility. He needed credibility with the king. He needed credibility with the other prophets. He needed credibility with the people, right? So an incident had to happen for him to prove that he was truly a servant of God. He was Elijah's successor, because already they doubted him. If you remember the part where he told the other prophets what happened to Elijah, that he was taken up into heaven, they didn't believe him. And they kept saying, oh, maybe your master is behind a rock somewhere. Maybe your master fell off somewhere. Maybe your master is somewhere. Let's go and search for him. He kept saying, don't go. But they bothered him so much that he was like, you know what? Go and look for him. So they went to look for him. They went around 3 days. They couldn't find him. So he needed that credibility. So when they started to mock him and say, oh yeah, you bold man, go up, or whatever, boldness is actually a blemish amongst Israelites and amongst the Romans as well. If you remember, there was a particular part where there was a certain king, I think, that lost a family member or something funny like that, maybe lost a son, and then David sends people to visit him and pay him a condolence visit. But he thought King David was being vindictive, so what he did was he cut off their beard and cut off their hair and cut off, and those people had to hide till their hair grew back because it was a blemish. Baldness was a blemish. So and when they kept saying go up, they were making reference to his master Elijah. If you remember, Elijah did not die. He was taken up by a whirlwind into heaven. Now, they would have been very, very happy to get rid of Elijah because, like I said, Bethel was predominantly, an idol worshiping city, right? So Elijah was like the prominent prophet amongst them that was telling them what to do. So they would have been happy to get rid of him, So they kept challenging Elisha, his successor. They kept challenging Elisha, like, go up, like, your master has gone, he has disappeared or whatever. You go up and go and join him. Much like, so they were challenging him, mocking him, sort of, if you claim to be a child of God, turn that bread into stone. When they did that, what did he do? He turned around. He cursed them in the name of the Lord. Now, if he was doing something wrong, God would not have responded. But God responded to him by sending out 2 bears, and the bears devoured them. After that incident, Elisha became so prominent, so well known, that his story was actually recorded in the Islamic Quran and also the Book of Mormon. So he was known all over in so many religions. Now, what I'm saying in that sense is that when people mock you for what you believe in, it's the trick of the enemy to limit you, to keep you small, to take away your power from you, to take your right away from you. Most importantly, to block you from your inheritance. Namaste.